how questions can provide all your content. Marketing for Owners, the podcast, John here, giving you another tip on how to build your business, make it easier, make your life easier, get better quality customers, and make more profits. And who doesn't want some of that? And by the way, when I teach or show you these tips, it also teaches me. Much of it comes from my experience and what works for me. But by telling you about it, it helps me look back at my work and think, oh, am I doing enough of what I actually preach? By the way, I do practice what I preach, and I'll never actually tell you anything that I don't use myself. So, what's all about this questions and content? Well, most of us are always wondering, what can we write about? What content, what can we put in our social media? What can we write about on our blog, on our websites? How can we talk to customers, etc., etc. But the secret in modern marketing is that the control has shifted from the supplier to the consumer. Now that is the main difference of the modern age. In the old days, so for instance in my business, in fire extinguishers, my main business, the way you'd find out of what fire extinguishers or fire safety equipment you need is by having someone come to you and tell you what you need. The expert, they will say, you need this, these are the rules. You wouldn't know anything. They don't give you any information. It sounds very convincing. They give you a price, you buy it, that's that. These days, when the guy comes along, he tells you what you need, the customers say, okay, leave it with me, I'll look it up. He tries his sales tactics, it doesn't work, customer's not doing that anymore. As soon as he goes, they bring out Google, they enter in the items that he's quoted, and they look up how much it costs. The next thing is they look up, are those the things that they actually need? Yes, it's all changed. The consumer is in control because they then look up that company and look up for ratings, they look up social media, and they find out, are they trustworthy? They are in control. They can ask their friends and their colleagues, what would you do? Because it's easy. They can send a tweet, a direct message. They can everything. They can Snapchat a friend. It's all different. So we need to get into the customer's language, and we need to get into their heads, and we need to provide the answers for the questions that are in their heads. So how do we do that? We do it with questions. What questions do customers ask all the time about your products? Say fire extinguishers. The common question we would get is, how many fire extinguishers do I need in my office? We'd say, how big is your office and what have you got, etc. But that's what they want to know. And that's the kind of thing they will enter into Google. Something like, how many fire extinguishers do I need for an office? And they expect an answer. That is what's on their mind. So if you have content that matches their question, then you're going to get the click. Okay. Now, this can apply in meetings, in everything, every touch point for the customer. Ask them questions. Don't tell, ask. So, if you ask a question of the customer to get into their mind, you will get the answers back from them in their language. Right? So if you say, for instance, the customer wants to know how many extinguishers. Right? How large is your office? What type of equipment do you have? And do you have any fire safety equipment at the moment? And have you had fire safety equipment before? When they answer you, then you're starting to get a conversation. This is pretty standard stuff. But you'll find they use certain types of language to describe that fire safety equipment and describe their office. And now, when you answer, you can use their language. If you use their types of words, it means more to them. It's more relevant. It helps. Now, this can work in any form. So in written content, in conversations on the phone, in face-to-face, in workshops, if you ever have workshops or if you give training. Ask people, Ask them to join in. They give you the words. And this kind of language you can use in your content, in your social media, because you're now talking customers' language instead of suppliers' language, and it's all more relevant. You're going to get more likeable. So, time to set you a weekend challenge. I know you love these. Pen, paper. Remember, don't do this on your iPad, don't do this on your laptop, don't do this on your phone. That relationship between the pen, the movement, the brain, it's right brain, left brain, one of those, look it up. And it does work. So, first thing first is I want you to write down 10 questions that your customers ask on a regular basis about anything they ask to do with your products, your services, your business. 10 questions. Write those down. The next one, this is trickier. I want you to go to somebody else. It could be preferably not your spouse. However, if you're lazy, your spouse. But somebody, a friend, a mate, perhaps even someone else at work, but preferably someone from outside the business who's a good friend, and say, hey, you know what I do for a living? I do this and that. If you're a customer of me, give me 10 questions you'd ask. Just ask me anything about my business. I want to write them down. Get those 10 questions from the outsider. Okay? They are going to look very, very, very different to yours. Thirdly, another 10. Yeah. Don't worry, there's enough ink in the pen. You'll be fine. And this is a weekend. You've got 48 hours to do it, so don't you worry. I want you to write down, because you've written down the 10 questions that people ask, I want you to write down 10 questions that customers should ask. So, for example, in the fire extinguisher business, for instance, people ask us, how much does it cost to have your fire extinguisher serviced? What they should ask is, how much are the costs to have fire extinguisher serviced over a 5-year period or over its lifetime? Because they don't know that costs will go up. We do, and that's what they should ask. Okay, so write down the questions that customers should ask. Now, at the end of this, you have 30 questions. From the outsider, you're going to pick out, I want you to pick out certain words and terminology that are different to yours, ones that seem customer type words. Write those down. The last one is, you are going to you're going to design a schedule with a deadline to create a written answer for all 30. Now, don't forget, that's 30 pieces of content. If you're going to do one a week, that's 30 weeks. This is not something you're going to do next week. I assume you have a content writer, or you write, or you do something. But those can be used in emails to customers. Those can be used in content on your blog. This can be used in a post on Facebook. And of course, once you could record a podcast, you can record a video giving the answer. If you do a video, you can then have that transcribed and make that into a post. That can then go on to LinkedIn. You can make an audio download. You can make a checklist of the answers. You can repurpose. See, how many bits of content can you get out of that? Lots. So you don't have to write these all today, but there is your content for the next 30 weeks or so. Pretty cool, eh? You can do this exercise over and over. That's all you ever need to know. So next time, ask your staff, each of them. Write down 10 common questions. Write down 10 questions they should. Say you have 5 staff. That's 10 questions customers ask, 10 questions customers should ask. That's 20 each, times 5, that's 100. Don't ever tell me you haven't got any ideas for content. Answering those questions is answering your customers' needs. That's what they want. Next week is going to be fabulous. But I know you're going to be busy this weekend, so I'll let you get on. I hope it's sunny for you. Have a great weekend.